Hello folks, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you how to load medium format film into a Kodak Brownie. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to use a Kodak Brownie Model D. So these old school cameras are great because, you can load modern HP5 Ilford film into it, and it's very easy to use and load as well. You do need to do a bit of modification, so I'm going to show you how to do that. All you need for this is some sort of sharp object, like a knife. The way I learned how to do it was by using one of these. This is obviously a nail clippers. You could use a scissors, maybe, or a knife. Maybe not a scissors, just for what I'm going to do, but... so I'm going to take apart the camera. So to take apart the camera, you just pop open the back. Now, you gotta load film into here, so you get this spool. I hope this is in focus. You pull it out, and sometimes you have to turn it to get it off the spool, but you'll know it's fully out because this thing here will start to come out the back, the cartridge or whatever, and you can take that out. Now for now, I'm just going to put the camera to the side. So this camera, to be more precise, is a Kodak 620. Most old cameras like this, most Kodak Brownies this tutorial will work for. There might be some specific models where this won't work, but I doubt it. So you got the cartridge out. Hopefully, when you bought your camera, you had one of these inside. This is going to be your take-up reel, and this is your take-up reel. It's very, very important that you have this reel. It is, and you'll know it's this reel because it's metal. Okay, I don't know if you can hear that, but it is metal. This is very important. If you don't have one of these, you might be able to buy one on eBay, or you can just buy a second camera with the reel inside of it. It's quite important, so make sure you have that, and obviously make sure this is working. Make sure these leaders are moving as well. Okay. Now we're going to keep this reel to the side here for a second. It's going to be quite important when we load film. Here's our HP5. Take it out of the box. You can actually keep the box because if you're developing at home like I will, there's some information about chemical development on the back, so I'd keep that. The HP5 is inside of this cartridge, or this packet. You just gotta... Okay. So that was a little bit harder to open than I thought, but there you go. Now when you get it open, you should have it on this white spool, and it will be taped here. Now when we load it, we're going to take off the tape. Before we do that, we need to get this spool to work, because if you notice, I'm going to reassemble this for a second, the way it's going to go in. So I'll talk about where you put the reel in a second, but if you try to put this in now, what will happen is, let's just pretend we get it in. It won't actually fit because this is a 620 take-up reel. This is a 120 medium format reel. You will notice that the medium format reel is just slightly bigger, and as it just so happens, it's just slightly too big to fit inside here. So to get this to fit into the Kodak Brownie, we need to trim off the side. It's very, very simple. I just use a nail clipper. This is how I learned how to do it. Just watch the eyes. I get some eye protection because this plastic can snap and fly off. And let's pray to God it doesn't hit the lens. So you see how it sort of overhangs like that? You just want to clip off the side. Now I'm going to try get this on camera. Okay, like that. You see the way I snapped that off? And now, as you can see, this is gone. So we're just going to trim this all around the sides, and I might just jump ahead here and get back to you. Again, as long as you don't interact with the... You see, you can't really go wrong with this. As long as you don't interact with the film or break the seal, you should be fine. So I'm going to skip ahead here, and then I'll show you what we do. So just trim around the sides, cut off anything that's overhanging. Watch the eyes, of course. I nearly took my eye out the first time I did this. Yeah, like that. So maybe a clipper isn't the best way to do this, but if you're lucky it will all pop off in one go. But Oh god. Okay, sorry about that. Wasn't expecting my first pair to snap. Let's try that again. Maybe you should probably just be using a pair of wire cutters, I guess. Okay, so that's that done. Now, if you have any jagged edges, just chip them off as well, because you know you don't want your take-up reel getting jammed up, or you don't want the reel getting jammed up, because once this is loaded, you obviously can't open the camera again. So, there you go, it's trimmed up now, and to test to see if it works, just go ahead and pop it into the camera. I'll show you how to load up the take-up reel in a second. But if you pop this into the camera now, make sure you have the right way around. You might need to push it apart a bit to get it pried in, but just give it a few spins on the reel and you know it's working then. Okay, so once you have it fitted in, I'm going to show you now how to properly load this. Just give me a second. There we go. Yeah, this is a bit of a DIY job, but you know, it works. Okay, so you have, put that to the side, you have the cartridge, the take-up reel, metal one, metal is your take-up reel, that's the medium format reel, and, or no, that's the 620 reel, and then the one with the actual film is the medium format reel. So, how do you get this on? So you will notice on the, it might actually be hard to tell, but there's writing down here. This is called the key side on my camera. You're going to put the 620 metal spool in here. You will notice there's a notch here. Put that in first, and then it should clip into place. To check to see if it's working, just roll it around, and it shouldn't really pop out. That's where you put the medium format, or that's where you put the 620 reel. There's a compartment here on the top. This is where you're going to put your film reel. Now to get the film reel on, in case you don't know how to load medium format film, you basically, on the film, there's this tape that's coming off. You're going to peel that off, and it's going to go around. Now once it comes off, you will see this writing here. It's called unexposed. Now this is backing paper. The actual light sensitive film is deep inside of this cartridge. Now once you take off that tape, this paper will start to come off. And you'll know this is the front of the paper because it's like an arrow here. Now as you roll the reel, the film will start to come off. Now on the back of the paper you have this, it looks like a black sort of sheet. Now you have about, I think it's 5 to 10 feet of paper that separates. So if I were to keep rolling here, eventually I'll reach the film and that will start to expose. So we don't want to do that yet. What we want to do is get this into the camera first. So I would suggest just take the paper out like this to make it easier. And put the cartridge upright here, and just like your other reel, load the film in. Make sure this paper is going over the reel, not like this, like this. I'll explain why in a second. Now, don't be too nervous doing this. It's a bit of a tight fit. Obviously, it's a botch job, but you're not going to damage anything. You have a bit of leeway before the film becomes exposed, so don't worry, you can't really go wrong here. Now, you have a large opening here and a small opening. This small opening is where the lens on your camera is. Now on the paper here, this is the backing paper. This is going to be where the actual film is. So the back paper is going to roll over the camera like this. I would suggest keep your finger down like that, just to make things easier, and pull it. Just like that. If it kicks out like that, don't worry about it. You want it so that the film is now rolling over the back of this opening. And it's going to go over these wheels. That's fine. Just keep pulling it along. And pull it a good bit. I hope this is easy to follow along. If it's not, forgive me, it's my first tutorial. Now, once you get the film, I'm actually going to bring up the ISO for a second here. That's too much. Okay. Hopefully you can see this, but you will notice when you get to the back here on your take-up reel there's a gap. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. What you're going to do is you're going to fit this arrow paper through this gap. Okay. Now there's two ends, okay? There's this flat end here that's short and thick, and this wide end. Put the paper through this wide end, like that. And what you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to just start rolling. Keep your finger on it so it stays locked on. Now, after rolling it for a little bit, just keep rolling until it starts to kind of lock into place. Now I'd keep going until this unexposed part is gone round. Now remember, you have about 5 to 10 feet of paper before you actually expose the film. So don't worry about over reeling it, as long as you're not just winding it up over and over again. Now if it pops off the spool, don't worry about it, just try it again. You're not really going to get into trouble here. So there you go, just like that. It will actually start to pull. Make sure it's nice and tight. If it's kicking out at the back here and the paper's bending up like that, just pull it tighter around the reel and make it so that it's nice and flat. So we have paper's nice and flat here, nice and flat here, and here. This is where the camera's lens is going to be, and this is eventually where the film is going to be. Now, let's get it into the actual camera. So, you have the camera. I'm going to tilt it on its side to make things easier. The 120 reel, because you have this key here, this is how you're going to wind the film round. This key needs to connect into your take-up reel. It obviously, it can only go in one way. You can't connect it into the input reel, obviously. So, and obviously this smaller section is going to go, is going to point towards the actual camera, right? Or the lens, rather. So go ahead and just place it in. Now, again, if it's kicking out like this, as you can see here on mine, I'm just going to pull it until it goes a bit flat. And then you just slide it in. Keep sliding it in until it completely connects, just like that. Well, it's just going to sit in there. Now the key is still disengaged, so if you put the camera upside down now, it'll just fall back out. So you're going to push down. Now mine hasn't clicked in, so I'm just going to rotate it and push down at the same time. And eventually it should snap into place. Okay folks, I got it loaded in. The problem was I didn't push the cartridge all the way in. It was hanging out slightly. That's why it wasn't connecting. So if you have that issue, that's probably why. My bad. Yeah, these cameras can be a bit funny sometimes, especially mine because it's from the 40s. But now, once you actually have that click and it clicks in, you want to just wind it forward for a bit. Now I'm just going to wind it a tiny bit here, and I'm going to wind it till the paper comes flat at the back and it's not sticking out. Okay, and eventually it will start to move down. About this time, you want to go ahead and close the camera box up. From this point on, when you start to wind it forward, if you open this box, it will expose the film to light. So, okay. Now I'm going to draw your attention to this part here. This is your film indicator. What you're going to want to do is wind it anti-clockwise, so towards you. And what that's going to do is it's going to start to pull the film around the spool. Like I said earlier, you have about 5 to 10 feet of backing paper before the film is now exposed to light. Eventually you'll start to wind and you'll see this black bar. If you see that, you know the film's winding properly. And you'll actually feel a bit of tension as well, so that's good. Just keep winding forward. And like I said, it can take a little bit before you actually get to the film. Now, we found something interesting. There's an arrow here. That arrow is telling you to keep going. So from this point on now, we're getting very close. There's another. Now, you will see these sunlight O's. I don't know if you can see that. Let me just put the camera into focus here. Okay, it might be hard to tell, but you can see like a circle in there. That's good. That means you're getting very, very close now. After winding past that circle, you'll see a thicker circle. You'll see an even thicker circle. And then last but certainly not least, you'll see a number. Most likely it will be 1. That means that there is now your first image, or your first exposure is now lined up. So the second you click the shutter button, you're going to take a picture. And it's as simple as that. You're now ready to start shooting. Every time you take an image, make sure you roll in advance, because these cameras don't automatically advance, so obviously you're going to do a double exposure if you click and then click again, so just be a bit careful of that. Now once you're finished shooting, I think you can get about 12 images from this. I'm not exactly sure. You can, depends on the, I'm pretty sure it's 12 images, but once you do that, you should be able to, it will just keep rolling, and then it will come off the spool and you can take it out and send it off to be developed. It's as simple as that. So folks, hopefully you enjoyed this very interesting video. I've never done a video like this before. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and goodbye.